Hey guys, Kathy Iconis here, ready to kick off our final session for the QBO Month-End Master Course. So today we are going to be talking about the P&L and reporting. So it's going to be a fantastic session, just like every other one, right? We all love them and can't wait to, I don't know, take more courses and learn more about all of the wonderful things about QuickBooks and stuff we can do. I don't know, I'm being silly. Just waiting a minute or two for people to join in so that no one feels like they miss out on anything. I think things are going well today. Hopefully, no technical issues. Yesterday, I did have a technical issue with a training, but guess what? This time it was my fault, which was silly. So that has been corrected. So hopefully we should have no issues today. Yay! Um, Let me go ahead and share my screen for you. Okay, and I'm gonna move that over there. Awesome. Okay, so what all are we going to be talking about today? Obviously, this is the last session for the QEO Month-End Master Course. We have gone through everything almost about talking about month-end. So today is final wrap-up. We're going to be talking about what we do with the P&L, things to pay attention to, how to deal with all of that, and then also all the reporting options that are available to you. And hopefully I can tie this all up in a pretty bow for you out of the 6 sessions, this being the last one, and be like, okay, now you feel comfortable with um, implementing a month-end process in your practice and how to go through all of the steps, developing that checklist for you, everything. Okay, so I'm really hope that we tie it all in. If you have any questions, please pop them in to the questions panel so I can address those as they come up. Um, More questions, the better. Just like always, we all learn from questions. So I always love questions from everyone. Um, so let's kick it off. Okay, we're going to talk about analytical procedures today. Again, a big term that is pretty easy to explain. Then reviewing the P&L, reclassifying transactions, QBO's management reporting functionalities, manual reporting using Excel, some of the stuff that I do with that, and then other reporting options that are available to us out there. So let's get started with analytical procedures. So like I said, this is one of those like big terms that really is not that does it shouldn't be a big term. It just I feel like there's so many terms in accounting out there that just made me feel dumb when I started out, and this would be one of them. So, in short, analytical procedures are just comparing things, comparing information from one subset to another subset. We want to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges. So, that's important. But I'll tell you kind of where I get this analytical procedures stuff from. Back in my audit days, they were actually, we utilized analytical procedures as a testing method of the financials. So they had more structure around what we're supposed to do with them. Basically, we would look at the business and whatever area we were going to test on the financials, come up with an expectation of what we were expecting to see in the business. What results were we expecting to see? We would have to actually write out what those expectations were, what we expected, and then look at the actual results and compare them to what our expectations were, do any further research on things that didn't match up and whatever. Analytical, we're just analyzing it, right? We're just looking at this stuff and kind of doing this like, does this make sense stuff? So this is what I really like to do with the P&L and in how I look at the P&L. I'm just like comparing the P&L to a prior period, or compare it to a budget, or you compare it to industry trends. It just any way that you can compare it, you have kind of a reference point to see like, okay, things don't make sense or things do make sense across different areas. I we might have a visitor in a second. Okay. It's gonna be a great surprise. Let me just throw her out of here. Sorry. Kitty attack. Okay. Wait, she doesn't distract me. Now she's gone. Okay. So let's look at reviewing the P&L. Oh, and you see here that I have a link. If you want to research analytical procedures, you can go to that and get a little bit more of an understanding of them. But again, basically we're just comparing information. So when I look at a P&L at the end of the month, so remember, we've gone through all of the phases of month end. We've done all of our work. We've, pretty much locked down the balance sheet. Now we're just looking at the P&L to make sure things make sense there. So there's a couple different ways that I do that. The first is taking the P&L and running a report and exporting it to Excel. So let me go over and do that right here. So I just, come into reports, come over to the P&L, right? Say I'm doing March, right? So I run that. And then what I do is select prior period, prior year, and year to date. And I run all of those for me. Okay, so then I export this out to Excel. But one thing you want to note here is that QBO doesn't do well with prior periods if it is not like last month. If I ran the report for last month, let's go to last month right here. And I have all those lines. Oh, fine. Let's get this right. Okay, so here I want to do last month and I want to do all of these things right here. Okay, so what you see is you see June, then you see May, then you see June of last year, and then you see January through June. Okay, these are all columns that I'm going to kind of compare against each other to see if things make sense. What I was trying to show you is if I run this for a period a long time ago, so the March of 2018, it doesn't really get the prior period right. What it's doing is it sees that March has 31 days. It is pulling the 31 days prior to that. So your comparison is not going to be apples to apples. You could potentially have expenses in there twice. So if something hits on the last day of the month on both months and they're reported in here, then we're not comparing apples to apples, right? We're showing two expenses in that one month versus just the one of the one we're looking at. So just be aware of that. When I'm in those situations, I would then run a different kind of report of comparison. So I'd do a 101.18 and then change this to look at the columns of the months, get rid of this stuff. And then it actually puts it into the right months for me, and I'll compare the expenses that way, just knowing that the period I'm looking at is now over here versus the first column where it was before. So let me go back to the initial report. So let me run it for last month, right? Do this, this, and this. My only question is, do I have a lot of expenses in there? No. Okay. I'm doing March, and we're just going to deal with those days. Actually, this is where I cheat for for this course. I can do August of last year. Because August has 31 days, July has 31 days. It will work in this instance. So here we go. And of course, it's not, I don't have enough information in there. So let me get that one. Okay. Export to Excel. Just do downloads, export, replace, sure. Okay, so this would be a work paper that I would save in my monthly folder for month end, right? Again, I'm going to probably put, if I write any notes out there to the side, I'm going to make them in red, but I'm going to go through here and see if things make sense. So you can see this project revenue, it looks pretty consistent across the months. And maybe I would expect it to be higher. Again, whatever you know about the business, what those expectations are, have those in mind when we're going through here to see things. Social media in here, any changes, nothing's looking wonky. I can tell you this customer retainers, this is just the ins and outs of a retainer. Instead of having it on the balance sheet, it's on the P&L in this instance. Fine for me. Project software looks like it's gone up. And yeah, so revenue was down overall, right? Mostly because of that using up of the retainer. So these are about constant. So maybe that's a little high. Maybe that's something I need to look at. So what is making it higher in August, right? Ugh. Now my technical difficulty is my keyboard. It's giving me, we don't even talk about it. Okay. So advertising right here. Okay, it was a lot smaller than it was last month. Client gifts, social media. I mean, again, we're looking at things and trying to see why would there be a big difference, if things are generically the same, pretty close, popping out, it all comes down to what you know about this business and what you're used to seeing. The more you go through it, the more comfortable you get on things. So nothing really pops out at me except for that one project software being a little bit higher, not even that much higher, just a little bit higher in August. So makes me curious and something I want to investigate. Obviously, I can come in here and I can click on this and look at the detail and try to figure out what that was. So you have that, you can drill down on the P&L itself. But what I like to do in addition to reviewing this is that I then, let me see, if you're doing this for a month beyond the last one, okay, I covered that. What I like to do is the reclassify transactions. And like I've covered, we now have a new view of reclassify transactions. So I'm going to go in here to reclassify. They've made it look like everything else in QBO. It no longer looks like the old version from several years ago. It does not pull in the report defaults that you can put in. I put in feedback requesting that they add this back in because I loved that and I'm kind of sad it's gone. But I'm gonna look at these. There's you have better filter options on here now. Like I can just do find transactions. It's going to give me everything from August of oh, I wanted to do 2017. Okay, and find transactions. So instead of having to click on every single one of these, it'll show you it all, but I like to look at it every single way down here. And this is a way for me to do a quick view of looking at the information in here to see if anything just doesn't look right, or if we're missing things. Like these two don't have the classes on them. So I can reclassify and put that to consulting and apply. So I could see that those didn't have those classes on them, and now everything does. Um, I look for things that don't belong, deposits in revenue accounts. If I'm utilizing invoices and sales receipts, if I see deposits in here, that's something I need to look at and try to figure out why is that in there. Does it belong? Just going through here, invoices, sales receipts, anything that pops out at me and looking at it. Most of the time, because of everything else we've gone through, we've dealt with revenue, so it's not so much of an issue to like really dive into. But this is your opportunity to look at like the expenses and make sure things are consistently coded in here. That's something we really, really want to have, because having the consistent coding of things, it actually helps with better management reporting. Because we can rely on those totals per whatever account it is, so project software, if we're consistently coding stuff to that account properly, then we can look at the historical information and make decisions going forward on what we think is going to happen. But if we're just putting it in another software account or all that sort of stuff, then our information on our financials is not as reliable and is not as helpful to the business owner. So it's something we need to pay attention to. Going through here, you can see those are my expenses. This is what I was like kind of going, why is that, popping out there? We can see 585, 813. This is sorted by name right now. So I have that. What I could do is I could change this to include the month prior. So I could kind of see like what's going on in this account. What are the differences on things? Let's see, we have that. Where do we see anything that's like crazy different here? I'm going to sort it by that. So that's a little that's about the same. I have a whole nother $24.99 in there, so that's different. Make sure that that's correct or not correct. Let's see, those are all about the same. Those are about the same. So it, comes down to maybe that's more expensive this month than last. Again, noting these things and just knowing what's going on in the business, really, it helps. And yeah, it's more of putting a story around the numbers in my head so I know what's going on with the client. I have that review, and then I have even more information when I come to it next month to see if things make sense and everything. This doesn't have to be a very long process. This does get into like I'm just scanning stuff when I'm going through here, just to make sure things are in the right place. There's some accounts that you'll notice that you want to pay more attention to versus other accounts like that are just are coded the same way every single time. So we have some professional fees in there, some client gifts in here. This Southern Refreshment I actually know is meals and entertainment, so that needs to move. Put that over there. So we have that, some social media stuff. Okay, what do we have in there? Fine. Office supplies, looking at this. Kroger, Pandora, Audible. Okay. Meals and entertainment, bank charges. So, looking at these, it looks like some of the names might be wrong on here with it being Hootsuite, but we have interest in here and stuff. And this one I just don't have an interest expense on, so I just put everything into bank charges. Obviously, if there's a lot more interest and stuff like that, then I would kind of like split it out on things. Wages, taxes, administrative stuff, long-term care, payroll processing, recruiting, computer technology. Like, I honestly hate having it being in the main account. I feel like it needs to be in the sub account. So I'm going to search for 65. And I actually don't have one in here. So really should be like a 6510. I'm gonna just put it over here. Assume I put it to 6510. Okay, but I got it out of that header account right there. Look, I have like this bill.com thing that needs to go back up to be consistently coded with the other bill.com stuff up there, right? I had that in there. Is there anything else that I had up there? I'm talking to you guys. You can be helping me here. So if I go to software, say project software, apply, okay. So this is what I'm doing. I'm just going through here and seeing if everything makes sense. Obviously, this one doesn't have a lot of transactions, but here yeah. What I have found is it's an easier way for me to scan the information going through reclassified transactions. Obviously, on the P&L, you can go on there and you can drill down, but it's a lot of clicking back and forth of things. So I prefer this method because it just makes things faster for me on that. So, but what I like to do is I like to look at the P&L in both ways of analyzing it and comparing it to another period, and then also looking at the details, scanning through it just to make sure things don't pop out at me. In research, anything that did come up when I'm looking at the P&L in that other way. Remember, we can also do things like running the budget versus actual report in QBO. So that would be analyzing two things against each other so you can see if there's any issues that pop out that way. So all of, it doesn't have to be how I ran that P&L. It's just, that's an easy way to review and analyze it. Okay. Let's see. The one thing to note, I guess now on Reclassify, we do not have to worry anymore about showing all transactions. It just goes ahead and shows us all of the transactions, but there are some things that we cannot reclassify, like sales receipts. If this lets me reclassify a sales receipt, that's going to be like insanely different. Let's try it. Nope. Okay, good. It shouldn't even let you see that screen. We cannot reclassify sales receipts or invoices in here. The reason being, if I look at the sales receipt, I'm trying to open it, did click it, or this one, how about that one? When I click on here, it reference a product service, it does not actually code directly to the chart of account on here. Because of that, that is why we can't reclassify within that screen. What we have to do is go in, either change the product service or go into this product service back here under product services, go to consulting, come in here and edit it and change what account that should go to. That's the only way to reclassify things. If I wanted to change this information right here to consulting, it gives me then this box that says also update this account in historical transactions. Be careful with this because that will update all transactions that utilize this product service, including everything from closed years past. So you could possibly be impacting prior year financials by doing this change. It's just a matter of you knowing how this is actually used. So if I don't change this, right, we have this consulting revenue and I save and close, right? I come back to reclassify transactions. I look at, let's see, right here, invoice, right? I have this consulting. When I look at the transaction journal itself, you can see that we have that project revenue right here, the $125. So just simply saving it, I don't think actually changes the information. So if I save it, remember I changed the mapping. So if I save it, sometimes you would expect that that would then actually change where this shows up on the financials, but just changing it on here and saving it, it did not change that project revenue. So I actually have to be on the invoice. You're gonna love this, right? Where's my little plus sign? Come on. You guys see this? Like, where's my plus sign? Oy. Okay. Now you have the plus sign. Okay. I think it's part of a group or something. So I'd have to put in a whole new consulting. Let's just copy this down. Oh, I can't really copy it because it was part of a estimate. So this is where it's a little wonky. So I'd say 25% of 500. So 0.25, 500, 125, not taxable. And then I'd get rid of that. Just remove the line. I don't want to unlink it. Save, yes. Then look at the transaction journal. And now my 125 is going to that consulting line. So you actually have to add a whole new line on there with the exact same information and delete the prior one if you want to manually move those transactions into a different account. So it's that manual, or you can bulk change the mapping of things, but potentially impact prior years. So no really great solution on the whole reclassifying of revenue here. Expenses, absolutely fantastic to be able to do this stuff. Okay, now coming back over to our checklist. So remember, we've gone through this checklist and we've signed off on all of the things we've done. We have reviewed someone else's work if we're in a firm setting that has several employees, right? And we go through here. We're doing the same thing on the P&L. Remember, on my checklist, I don't go through and list every single account. I will put in here accounts that might be risk areas of where like potential problems happen, like uncategorized income. I don't want anything sitting in that account. So I have that as a separate line item on here saying it should be 0. Uncategorized expenses, you would, that's specific to the company that you're dealing with. Are there any of those accounts that we really need to pay attention to? Otherwise, yeah, just group it like revenue, cost of goods sold, expenses, other income, like if just reviewing the detail and things look good, right? But then you can come down here and we get into this world of reporting. And what information are we going to give to our clients? So taking a step back, remember the whole month end thing is almost twofold. One, we are checking our own work to make sure that we are confident in the numbers that we're providing to our clients, that someone needs to check what we're doing because everyone makes mistakes and it's possible that we did, right? So we have some sort of process to check our own work. Nothing wrong with that. But 2, by doing all of this, it gets the books ready to be able to create reports and create really good information for our clients. So if your client is in a position where they're open to receiving this information, not everyone does, not everyone is at that point, but if they want more information and want help managing the business and understanding the numbers, this is the perfect time to just add it into this process, right? And get it all together so that you can deliver it to the client. So remember, it's a process. All of this is a process. So when it comes down to reporting, what is your reporting process? Are you utilizing specific reports and making sure you get those sent out to them? Are there specific issues you need to look at or update in the books that are not necessarily impacting the financials, but are impacting, like the trial balance numbers being all right? More so like, are all the classes there? Are all the locations right? Do we utilize the right product services? Are things booked to projects and not like the main customers? Those sorts of things about the database to make sure that we get the proper reports later on out of it. We can also put those as tasks to check on in here in this checklist. It's a great tool. Just like, we're already here, we're already doing this work, let's just keep on going and create it, sign off on it, all of that stuff. So we have my examples here, like I create a year-to-date P&L versus the prior year, saying what kind of report I want and what information I'm providing. Cat's back. She's not okay. She didn't go quite over there. And then, the exact report, exact information that I want on there. The balance sheet versus prior year. That's the information I provide every single time. Year-to-date cash flow statement. Budget versus actual. Export and then add notes to that spreadsheet that I put in there. Dashboard, update my template, something that I have in Excel that I need to update and do. So those are all different tasks that I have in here to make sure that I get my reporting to my client the way that I have set it up, and I've streamlined it pretty much. I have my system, putting it in here and making sure that I check my list to make sure it gets done on things. So looking at this, say we've gotten through all of this, right? We signed off on everything and our books are good to start doing reporting. One option here is to utilize QBO's management reporting. Obviously, we can just export reports out of here. But like I could just go to the P&L and export it and share it, that sort of thing. I should have put that kitten up. But there's also management reports in here, okay? So within management reports, usually you see these two that are, as you can see, created by QuickBooks. They are basically starting points and you can customize it from there. So if I open up basic company financials, okay, that's opening it. Let's go to edit. Okay. When I come in here, if I change this name, right? So change this name and my keyboard working for me. Let's just keep it at T. We have the management reports. I can change the style of this to look a certain way, put in this information in here, and all that. Let me get her before you guys really hate me. Okay, out of the way. Now, manage reports and having this, you can see we have this information on here, whatever. I can include table of contents if I want to. Preliminary information, I can put this stuff in here. You can utilize these fields. So these fields in here let you, it's like dynamic. You can accountant firm name, it knows that, it puts that in there. Report end date, whenever you change your report period on here, it's going to change it on this page when you use that field. So those are some cool things to have in here. Reports. This is the basic setup of the reports on things. If you click on edit, you can change the name of it. You can change the period here. Remember, it usually matches what's up here. You can say compare previous year, compare previous period. if you want to make those changes. Balance sheet, statement of cash flows. Now, what happens is you can actually add any report that you create and save in here. So I can come in here and this is profit and loss, no class specified on here. I want to put that one in, right? And I can add as many as I want in here. 1099, whatever. Whatever reporting package that I want to come up with and I want to have in here, I can create on things. Now, what I will tell you is that we still cannot move the pages around in here, which can be a total pain. I know, but the way to get around it is let's just delete it. You know, like we delete all of these and we start in whatever way we want. You know, maybe I want to start with sales reports instead of just going straight into the P&L. So I can do, let's see, do I have a, do sales by client summary, right? And I want to put that in there and compare it to the previous year, right? Then I want to go in and do the profit and loss of just consulting. You know, all of this stuff I can now customize the way I want, but just remember, if you mess up and don't get it in the right order, you got to delete and then add in what you want on here. Then here, let's put in a balance sheet. Or do you see I'm typing? This is hilarious. Guys, some days I don't understand. Okay, so we have that in there, right? I'm gonna save this just so that it kind of saves where I am on things. Then EndNotes. In here, I can include, you know, any information I want, but you also have this include the breakdown of our sub accounts. So if I put that in there, it's going to give me the detail information of all those sub accounts that I have. So I'm going to save that and show you that in a second. But before we do that, I want to go into advanced here. So it says accountant firm name, accountant name, company name, all of that. I have a header that I can put on all these, and then I have the footer. This is where I say for management purposes only. It worked. And press OK. So again, I'm going to save it so I have that. And I'm going to come in here and do a print preview. So you can see what this looks like, right? I've changed my format. So it looks a little different up here from like the first one that it gave us, right? You see my footer on here. I have that table of contents. My sales by client summary is listed there first. It keeps going. Profit and loss consulting, apparently there's no information on that. And then I have the balance sheet on here. You see it puts in these note numbers. That's what that little box was to include the details. So it's going to have detail of this computers and equipment area. So if I come down here, my last page, it breaks it down for me and tells me what made up that number that was listed on the balance sheet right there, which would be the same if I had P&L data on there. It would do the same and have that broken out for you. It's a little bit more like, you know, official financials that get that are put together for banks and under GAAP and all of that, or accounting firms actually putting out there. It's a little closer to that, like notes to the financials. Again, but still the setup is not back to like what you would actually get from, you know, if it was compiled financials or anything like that. This is just our reporting to our clients. This is why I also put for management purposes only on things so that people don't think, oh, well, I can hand this off to a bank to try to get a loan and say, oh, yeah, my CPA put this together and blah, blah. I'm like, no, I didn't do it under CPA. Like, that's not a compiled financial statement that should be relied upon. It doesn't have certain testing done on it. It's for management purposes only. I do management reporting. We can work with a CPA to get you those other reports if you need them. But that's what we have in here. Okay. So this is how we do management report, the management reports within QBO. See now in here, I have all of that. I can change the one I just did right here. I can change this to, let's see, last month, and then be able to view it. That should update everything so that it says for the period of June, and it has just June information in here. Again, nothing on that, and then just June information there. So it's dynamic where, yes, it's pulling in the period that you're asking it for. Again, this drop down, you can edit, you can send directly from here, export to a PDF or a Word document. You can copy, you can delete. Okay, tons of different options in there. Now let's talk about what a little bit more manual reporting that I do when I want to get something that's more customized for my clients, and I want to have a little bit more control over the information I give them. And yes, I have control issues, so this happens a lot. I will tell you that there are a ton of reporting apps out there. They have great information, but the flexibility that I want to be able to customize exactly, like I know what information I want to get to my client, and it's hard on some of these apps to get it to get that, just that information, versus like there are a million different options that you can provide. So it's usually like I'm trying to frame a conversation with a client and get just specific information to them. And that's usually where I need to come in and do some sort of manual thing with Excel. So what I like to do in Excel is I like to still set this up as a template that I can utilize over and over again. So I'm not using a ton of time every month just to create this thing. So the basic setup that I end up doing in here is, say I have a P&L, right? And we're going to try to make this pretty basic, guys, just so you can kind of see some of the stuff that I'm working on. So I'm going to export this out, and I'm going to actually save it in my month end folder. Going up here to this session. Okay, save. So let me open this up. So, oh, I forgot one thing. I like to do my columns by months. Okay, so I'm going to export to Excel. That's the one I really wanted. Let's close that. I'm just going to overwrite it. Replace. Open. Okay, so I have all of that information. This is 2018. And then I'm going to do the same thing and change it to this year. Run report. Export to Excel. Sure. I'm really just, what was it? Okay. Export to Excel. Why is it not like that? Oh, I think just the naming is, there we go. I'm going to move this, move or copy, move it over to this sucker. I'm actually gonna move it in front because I'm a control freak and 2019 needs to be before 2018. I don't know. Okay, so you can see I have the month information in here, right? This is my template, and I do my reporting like monthly on things. And the reason I like to have the months all the way across is basically, you saw the information, like I had that, this other spreadsheet, right? Well, where'd it go? Nope. Okay, so if I export this again, right, open this up, all I have to do is take these cells, go over to my template right here, and just paste. It's going to be the same number of columns every single time. The only thing that might change is if I add or subtract accounts over here. There might be some differences, but say, I'm working on July, then populate all of July's information, then populate all of August's information every time I redo this report. And then I have like a summary sheet, which I do here. So I can come in here and let me make this bigger for you. And I can say like total revenue, but what I really want to utilize is total income, the actual term that is used on the financials. So total income, we know that's going to be total revenue that's listed on there every time, right? So what I'll do is a VLOOKUP, and a VLOOKUP lets you look at a table somewhere, right? And find a value on that table and pull back the column that you want. So let me show you. First, I want to do a lookup value. So I want to find total income, and it asks for my table. Here's my table right here. So it wants to find total income, and I want to pull back a certain column. So if I want to pull back April, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. I want it to be an exact match. I don't use the approximate match. It's always false. Okay. And so that automatically pulls the information over for me. So I can say 2019 total income or I can do April 2019, and then I can do April 2018, right? I just copy this formula, and my array, the table array that I'm looking at, is now going to be on this thing on 2018, and I just save it. So that gives me 2018, what the actual revenue was in 2018, which is that it is that much bigger versus what it is in 2019, right? And then I'm able to compare the two. So what I do is I use these as like data sources, these other tabs, and I pull the information up onto a dashboard that I kind of create. And it doesn't have to be pretty graphs and charts. If you have them, great. But usually just a very basic information that I like to pinpoint stuff, maybe make things like, hey, this is bad, that this is lower than it was last year, different visual cues to give clients on things that I want them to notice and to get their attention for, that I would put on here. So that's how I utilize that. That's how I try to make a manual process a little bit faster on things. If you do want a little bit more information on like the formulas and different stuff that you can do, I did have a Excel course that I put up on the website. So it gives you a lot of the formulas and pivot tables and stuff in there. So if you're interested and you want a little bit more information around that. But this gives you the basics of like the methodology that I'm doing to create this sort of thing on here. So we have that. We can go in and do that kind of dashboard manually, right? And you can see it's semi-manually. I'm going to close these out. I'm going to close that out. Or save it and close it. And now let's talk about other reporting options. Now, first things first, you don't have to send the client anything. We all know clients that could care less, right? And no matter how much we want them to care and we try to get them to care about it, they're not going to, okay? Or even if they need to, they're not going to. There are those people out there that are just not going to happen. Don't try to kill yourself trying to make it happen. Sometimes people just need, they need to find their way to being able to ask for help and coming to you. And sometimes they're just, it's not going to happen. But my point being is you don't have to give a report. Remember, this was also done to check our work to make sure that we're providing quality work to our clients and having, the books in place and all of that. You could just send an email and say, hey, we're done. Everything is good to go. Maybe you have some questions on stuff. right? Maybe you want them just to look at the AR aging. Does it all look right? That sort of thing. Then there's also within QBO, there's a business snapshot area. So if we come over to reports, it is hidden a little bit. So now coming down here, business snapshot. This is still something that is the old view of QBO, but I really do like it. It's dynamic, where I can click on any of these and it will pull a report for me of training income, project revenue. I can also do this drop down to say last quarter, and it gives me information on that, that pie chart, and updates it for me. Same thing last month on expenses. I can see that, gives me the total, gives me the breakdown. If I click on anything, it will open up a report for me. I also absolutely love this area. Again, that analytical thing, I'm just comparing a period like last year to the year before, right? Or this year to the year before. But I can also look at specific areas. So I can compare just consulting revenue year over year, or just social media services year over year in here. So that kind of stuff is fun for me, just being able to easily drop down and get to that. And I feel like this is something you can give a client that they can play around with a little bit, but it's not so overwhelming they have no idea what's going on. Same thing with the expenses. We have this in here. I could just drop down and just look at specific things if I want to, all of that, right? Awesome. Down here, who owes me, who I owe, not as important to me as these 4 things. And you can print these out if you want to, but that's not as cool as being able to drill down on stuff if you have questions. But then we jump into this whole other field of third-party apps that do different types of reporting. Basically, what we would do is go to apps.com. I don't know what that was. Okay, wait, apps. Come on. Come on. Usually it's apps.com that you can type in, but obviously I'm having keyboard issues, right? So within here, you scroll down and you can get to, wow, they have changed, they are always changing these, okay? Perform analytics, it's gonna be closest to reporting. So there's things like QVenshi, LivePlan, Fathom. I use Fathom on one client where I get, again, I've created a template on there. It is a prettier layout. It has some more information, very basic. It's not basic. It is, to me, I think it's a little overkill for that client, but they like it. And it's easy for me to like replicate each month. So again, you see how I'm doing things. I have my system behind it, but it's getting them information that they're happy with and they're good with. So I just do that for them and update it every month. It's really quick. It allows you to log in and actually look at stuff. They have yet to ever log in. So, but I know there's other firms out there that do a lot with Fathom. So there's a lot of options there. LivePlan does more of helping you create a business plan and then also doing the budgeting, forecasting, and stuff. QVenshi was around more for desktop, and they are now have the QBO stuff. I feel like this is a lot more customization around reporting, but you have to understand how to like do that customizing and grouping information together and stuff. It's less like a Fathom is just going to like give you all these presets to go with. So just looking through here, there's all of these. There's always new things being added to it. Definitely look at the reviews on things. So if I'm going to Fathom, things I want to look at is I definitely want to look at their video, right? And see what they're doing. And then look at the examples. Like this sucker, I feel like is a little overkill. If you can get a client to understand this, you are amazing. You are absolutely fantastic and, high end. consultant on that end, if you could get them to understand it and really get get stuff off of it. Far better than me, right? But we still have, these things in here. Again, I feel like people, when they're looking at some of this stuff, like this is completely overkill for me. Um, I've tried presenting some of this stuff to clients and it was too much, right? So that's why I like to end up doing my own little manual thing. It might take me longer, but I feel like, yeah, I'm pinpointing issues with my clients versus it's, yeah, how comfortable you are with communicating with the client about stuff. Sometimes it's easier for you to utilize a system like this that will help you come up with that, what to communicate on things. So there's that. I mean, honestly, too, I swear people just kind of put these reports together to make it look really cool and sophisticated, and people might have like no clue what's going on. Um, I do like this cash flow report that they have. It's like, here's everything you started and going through the report of like how you end up with no cash, like how you utilized it all and it's gone, right? And what your ending balance is. That's a good visual on things. But back to just looking at these apps, we have the overview, we have the pricing on things, we want to look at the reviews of stuff. Um, a lot of these have a trial period that you can look at and go through. If you're, as accountants and bookkeepers, they really love us. They want us because we could potentially bring several businesses to them onto their platform. So reaching out to them through like their website or on Twitter or whatever, you probably get great responses. And, if you want to have a demo with them or something like that, you could probably do that as well. But really, kind of find your groove and go with it. And you don't want to reinvent the wheel too much because when you're reinventing a wheel in your practice, that is taking profit from you, right? It's taking time and energy to reinvent it. What you want is to create a very efficient and effective process that can be utilized over and over and over and over again until you just get too big that you need to come up with a new process. So keep that in mind when we're doing all of these things. I know there's a lot of new, shiny, fancy things, but remember that if you are constantly going for the new, shiny, fancy things, that could make your customers a little nervous about all those changes, but also you're utilizing all of that time on there, and you're not being as efficient in your practice. And you could be potentially just taking money away from your pocket at the end of the day. So that wraps up our whole month end. So to recap on month end, I've talked about this is our check and this is our opportunity to get reporting to our clients. But let's talk about the phases again. We start out with planning, right? That's the last Friday of the month before we start doing month end. Planning out our month, creating a checklist, knowing what we're going to do, seeing what tasks we have to do within the month and scheduling around that, right? And then we go into reconciliations. Very first of the month, that's the first thing we do. We want to make sure we have all of those transactions from that period in the books. No more, no less, right? That's our world of things. We want all those reconciliations done. Then we start going through the rest of the balance sheet and creating work papers to support those accounts, or just noting that nothing's changed on them or anything like that. We go through and we create those work papers. Then we get into that review period where we're reviewing the balance sheet to make sure that the work papers and reconciliations make sense. Everything looks right. We didn't miss something on our checklist, like a new account or anything. And then we look at the P&L like I showed you today and all the different things. And then we get it ready to report to our client, right? And then we are done with that month. And usually that gives you about a week or so, and we start this whole process again. Okay. And don't hold yourself up on making something perfect and everything. If you don't have some information on something, push through and just get what you can done for that month, because most likely you'll get it in the next period, right? And that's the thing is, while we're continuously looking at the books and managing these books, we learn more about things. We can, yeah, sometimes things are delayed a month, and we, are just waiting on the information, but we can do everything else and keep on moving forward. Um, and also make this like a streamlined thing, so it's not taking um, up all of your time, and again, profit, right? You want to have systems in place to check your work, but you also don't want it to overwhelm you so much that you can't take on more clients and grow in whatever way you want to. So that is it. That is the end of the 6-session course on the month end master course. Now, we have one more full week within the Facebook group where you can ask questions. Any questions you want. You can catch up on all of this stuff, rewatch it, all of that. Within the Facebook group, if you're in the Master Course Facebook group, you have access to all of these videos and files for a year in that group. I am done doing the support at the end of next week. But you still have access to that group for a whole year, all the other information in there. If you want to have continuing support, I do have a support subscription service that's just a monthly fee. So if you want to do that, you can check the website or just reach out to me and we can talk about that. But thank you, thank you, thank you for registering for this course. I hope you feel far more confident now about your month-end process and what all you can do, and get yourself organized and efficient so that you can make your business whatever you want and have less stress around all of this stuff. So thank you again. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Okay, bye guys.